And her soul started floating, for lack of a better term, up that beam of light to where it was getting brighter and brighter and brighter. I chose to follow her. And the more I went up that beam of light, the more I felt pure, unconditional love. And instead of amniotic fluid, I'm floating in this just incredible love. Incredible love.
You see anything? Do you hear anything?
I hear singing.
Kind of singing.
The words that come up are the sounds that the energy of the realms make.
Hello, I'd like to welcome Sara Drake from Middletown, Maryland. When Sara was in Utero, she had her first NDE through a plane accident, and then had another NDE when she was 6 years old through a car accident. And Sara is here today to share her story with us. And in a little while, we'll also dive into some hypnosis and make contact again with this presence that she felt on the other side. Thanks for joining me, Sara.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Kyle. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, where would you like to start with your story, your stories?
Oh my goodness. Well, it's difficult to tell really the best way to present because the first one I remembered was when I was 6 years old. Um, it has always been very clear to me in terms of what I actually remembered of that experience. But my response to that, I was very angry at being sent back, is also correlated with the in utero experience, which I did not remember until I was in my 40s during what's now called liberation breathing technique that was developed by Sara Drake. And I had a cellular level flashback, remembering many details actually of that experience. So the interesting thing to me is the 6-year-old experience. I remember being out of the body before, and once they found my body, it was about 30 to 45 minutes after the crash that they realized there was a little girl in the car still, or somewhere still. And so they all went back looking for me. That 30 to 45 minutes is total blackness. I kind of would love if during the hypnosis part we looked at that, if that's for the highest good. But I remember floating above myself, trying to figure out what was going on, then everything going black. And then 30 to 45 minutes later, floating above the car that was going to be taking me to the hospital and trying to figure out what was going there. So I didn't actually remember the NDE itself. What I do remember is being very, very angry that they sent me back again. And it was very clear to that little 6-year-old girl that it was an again, as opposed to, oh, they just sent me back. And it was also very clear that I couldn't talk to anyone about it, that I wasn't allowed to talk about it.
What
So,
year was that during? That was
1962.
Yeah, so that was definitely before this became a
Yeah.
normal thing talked about. Yeah.
Yeah. And it probably, if I had talked about it, it probably would have scared a lot of people, and I probably would have ended up in a state institution. So, as an adult, especially as a therapist, looking back, I'm like, yeah, good thing I didn't talk with anyone. But at the time, I was very angry and frustrated and did not know what to do with all that emotion. So, But the flashback that I had, the cellular level flashback in my 40s when I was doing this breathing technique and could observe everything as an adult, but could not control my body or anything, could just observe and let the memory work through the cellular level and release. They actually showed me quite a bit of detail. So, they being the light beings that I communicated with,
This was
both.
from the one when you were in your
It
mom's
would have
belly.
been February 1956.
Right. Okay.
My mother was 4 months pregnant with me. Back in those days, they did not know to put the seatbelt below the pregnant belly. And she was very pregnant, even though she was just 4 months. Um, Here are some of the things I remember from growing up. She was scared to death that she would lose the baby after that plane crash. In a nutshell, what happened is they didn't clean off planes in those days or runways when it snowed, and it had snowed. And the pilot overshot the runway because it was all snow. He couldn't see it, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And he slowed down enough to not go flying off of the edge of the mountain, because in West Virginia, in those days, they cut off the top of a mountain, paved it, and called it an airport, right?
Yeah.
But he'd slowed down enough. But when he got to the edge, he just went nose down and caught on a ledge about 100 yards down. So nobody was hurt, thankfully. Nobody was hurt. However, everybody was, as you can imagine, with plane nose down, everybody's hanging from their seatbelt. And the seatbelt was across her belly. And it took them a while. And of course, they were very worried about her because she was pregnant. They had to get her up the mountain and all that kind of stuff. So she was hanging there for a while. And she did tell me that, like when I was a teenager, that she was very scared because she had some bleeding. But obviously, since I'm here, it wasn't
Worked
anything to
out.
worry
Yeah.
about. However, my perspective in utero, coming from the flashback, is that I was facing out. So my spine was along her spine, and I was a twin, and the twin was on the belly side. We were facing each other. And in the cellular experience, literally what I saw was my twin's finger, the tip of her finger, breaking off, which is basically the whole finger, and floating away in the amniotic fluid. And I started freaking out and grabbed my umbilical cord and did the choke thing. What do they call it?
Mm.
When you're in fetal position and you lock in that. But I had
Oh,
the
yeah,
umbilical cord. To this day, I cannot stand to have anything around my neck. So, not even a necklace. It's very, very rare that I can even handle necklaces. So, you got to wonder if there's a correlation, you know? But
Yeah, sure the body remembers. Yeah.
during the flashback, I remember going into shock and fear at my twin dying, and some part of me using obviously human terms. I don't know if they would actually apply, but this is how it felt to me. I was freaking out, basically, and aware that my twin had died. And then the light, the beam of light, came, and her soul started floating, for lack of a better term, up that beam of light to where it was getting brighter and brighter and brighter. I chose to follow her. And the more I went up that beam of light, the more I felt pure, unconditional love. And instead of amniotic fluid, I'm floating in this just incredible love, incredible love. And I get to this like wide opening pathway kind of place. And I'm I guess the closest you could get to it is the yellow brick road, but that's not really accurate because it's not a physical place, it's an energetic place. At that point, I am stopped by a very large oval being of light. Had kind of a shadowy humanoid shape, but mostly it was just pure light. And it told me I couldn't come any further. And I argued. I'm like, no, I like it here. I want to stay. And in essence, without going into all the details, we argued. He tried to convince me, you got to go back. And I'm like, no, I like it here. And finally, and it almost felt like he was exasperated, and it felt like a he. Um, he goes, your mother asked for you. And I just went, oh, okay then. And I was sent back into the womb. It's very simple, but it was very profound in my life
Sure.
and how it impacted. So the second NDE, when I was sent back, I was angry that they had done it again.
Mm.
The second NDE, like I said, I didn't remember the 30 to 45 minutes of nothingness. But at the beginning, when the car rolled down the mountain, the other occupants were thrown out of the car because it was summer and the windows were open. I remember hovering above the back part of the front seat. These were the days of bench seats.
Mhm.
And I was very confused because I thought that my body was underneath the front seat, which I did some research when that generation was still alive. And there was like this much room. So I doubt I was underneath the back seat, but that's what it felt like. And I was very confused trying to figure out, why am I under the back seat or under the front seat? And then everything went dark, and I have no memory of anything at that point. Then the next thing I remember, which would have been 30 to 45 minutes later, is that I was floating above a person's car, and I could see both the front and the back seat. I was still very confused. The driver of our car, who was a college student at the time, was sitting in the passenger seat. So I was looking at the driver's seat, apparently expecting her to be there. And it was this old man, old from my perspective. He was probably in his 40s. And then I looked in the passenger front seat, and that's where our college student was sitting. And I'm very confused by that. And then I go, hey, wait a minute. Who is that man? And I look at the car and I'm like, whose car is this? This isn't our car. And I look in the back seat and there's a woman, and I just knew she was the man's wife. And she's holding my body and I'm crying. And I look at that and I'm like, what, who is that woman? Why is she holding me? And am I crying? And the next thing I know, I'm in the body crying, and they were taking me to the hospital. I did ask the college student decades later, when I was an adult and she was probably in her 60s, what she remembered of that. And she said basically because she and the other person who was in the car had been thrown out and were on the mountainside. People, in those days, it was safe to get people's help for the most part. People stopped and came down and got the other passenger, who was 2.5 years old, and they rushed him to the hospital. And then they got her in the car and were getting ready to drive off. And she said, where's Sarah? And they're like, we don't know who you're talking about. We got this little boy, but she goes, well, there's another child. So everybody stops that was still around, and they go searching for me and finally found me. She said that that was at least 30 minutes from when the car crashed to when she asked, where am I? So that's why I say 30 to 45 minutes. So that's really, other than when I'm in the hospital, I had a broken leg and needed several stitches. And so that was all getting handled. And adults, my parents, her parents, came rushing to the hospital to meet with us because it was my birthday. We were going to her parents to celebrate my birthday. And I absolutely adored her dad, who did magic tricks. At least
Hmm.
they seemed magic to me. The old, pull the quarter out of your ear kind of stuff. I just thought that was so
Sure.
cool. But I was super, super, super angry
Mm.
and just fuming because they sent me back again.
So that was
I
the
didn't want to
actual
come
thought
back.
process
That was the
going through.
literal thought process. Is I didn't use swear words, but the energy was, damn it.
Mm.
I was sick. So, I just was angry. And it's like, they sent me back again. I don't like that. And
And yeah, you said you
then
didn't
hearing
share
the
that though.
voice say, don't tell anyone what happened.
Right. Mm.
And I was angry about that. Again, looking back as an adult, it makes total sense that I shouldn't talk to anybody about that. But at the time, I was very angry. They were, for a 6-year old, those are huge emotions.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do with that. So that's when I learned how to stuff emotions.
Mm. Yeah, that's the age, isn't it?
Yeah. So the results of both of those are that I knew things without understanding how I knew things.
So you feel those experiences opened you up to uh, increased sensitivity to uh, what
Other
were
vibrational frequencies is what I call them. Because
okay.
everything to me, it's like music. We have 12 basic tones, but there's a whole lot of different vibrational frequencies, some which we can hear with our human ears, some we cannot. So that's how I experience people and energies. I mean, we're all energy. We're the ones who create separation and uniqueness
Mm.
through the way we think and the boxes that we create to make sense of our existence. At least, again, that's the window I look through. But as I grew until I got married, I think, although there were a few dreams after that, I would have primarily informational dreams. Whenever I'd ask a question, I would get an answer in a dream, and occasionally prophetic dreams. I've even had dreams when I'm like in a classroom and I wake up in the physical body having to go to the bathroom. So I go there and I get back in bed, fall asleep as soon as my head hits the pillow. And I come walking back into the dream going, sorry, as I'm stepping over people, sorry, I had to go to the bathroom. I have no idea how to explain that dream. It was, again, a group meditation. We
Mhm.
were all doing, people I knew, people I didn't know. But it just, to me, was it's one of the many unusual experiences I've had in my life.
Mm.
And then,
Interesting.
according to adults, having a wisdom that I think today is not unusual with children. All we got to do is listen. I don't know if it was unusual in those days. It could be that nobody ever really listened, and it was typical for kids to be very wise.
Yeah, more hush hush.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a long time ago, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah, well, the nice thing about well, hypnosis here that we're going to dive into is we can bypass the whole time and space barrier and access everything in the eternal now and um, you know, return to whatever you want. So,
that'd be great.
yeah, if you're ready for the hypnosis part, we can get ready. And if you want is there anything else you wanted to share before we dive into that, or
Um,
anything
Probably
that you?
just to reinforce a couple of perspectives. One, there's no such thing as truth from the physical level because all we have is our own perspective. That's how our brains work. So I
Objective, yeah.
like to go, okay, we each have our own little window into the world. Our belief systems color that window. So, or put films over it or make it clearer, depending on the belief system. There is absolutely no reason to get angry or upset with anybody else who has a different window. It's just an opportunity, if you want to interact with them, to communicate and learn how to create harmony with your different windows. Or there is discernment. If you can't create harmony, walk away. You don't have to interact.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
think that's really
That's an important piece right there is a lot of times it's important to walk away because there are such varied uh, personalities out there and some are very toxic and it doesn't matter what you try to do or how you try to handle it. Ultimately, the best thing is to just sayonara. So yeah,
well, you
yeah,
have, I think it's important that, and I am a therapist, so of course it's going to bleed into here. I think it's very important that we all learn to respect and honor ourselves and recognize that sometimes loving someone, even if it's like the love of the fact that you're a human, means walking away and not being a
right.
punchy in any way.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
also, as we respect and honor ourselves, which is a form of love, self love, we automatically start doing that for everyone else. So,
Yeah.
anyway, enough
That's
said.
good. Good place to leave off and head into our hypnosis. So
Okay, sounds good.
your mind will start to get the message that it's okay to just start relaxing, to unplug from the personal story that we carry, that it's not needed right now. Personal story isn't needed. It's not going to help at all right now. No need to reference any ideas at all. And just enjoy fully being in the moment, being fully present in the body. And here you are, just as this pure awareness, as you've always been, but now just completely free of the burden of being somebody. Can you describe to me what you're feeling, what you're experiencing? Do you see anything? Do you hear anything?
I hear singing.
Kind of
Uh,
singing.
the words that come up are the sounds that the energy of the realms make. So there's a purity to the sound. Sometimes it sounds like voices, and sometimes it just sounds like beautiful sounds.
And
Very harmonizing.
do you feel a presence?
Not of individuality, but of totality.
So you feel a oneness, a connectedness.
Completely one with everything. There is no separation.
I'd like you to travel now with your mind because we're in this space of everything being possible. We've stepped outside of time. We're in this eternal instant, this eternal moment of now. So I'd like you to just travel now, effortlessly travel right to that moment when you were 6 years old and you left your body and you saw yourself floating outside of the body. Can you describe to me what you were feeling, what you're experiencing right now?
Well, there's multiple levels of consciousness, and the slowest vibration, the child. It's like, oh no, not again. Um, in the faster vibrational frequencies, it's acceptance of what is to come, but not conscious awareness of what that is.
There
So,
was a period of time during this experience where the memory of it was removed. Do you
yes,
have a feeling now of why that was and what actually took place?
I was being given instructions on how to cope with the challenging experiences this body is going to be experiencing throughout the next 15 years or so.
Why was it important not to remember at the time?
The experiences themselves were for the development of compassion, and had the child had knowledge of the experiences, the learning would not have been as easy to have happen. There was a lot of trauma in this child's life. So
So,
this was designed to facilitate resiliency.
so you can feel now how it makes perfect sense that there was a period you didn't remember. And you can feel the compassion and the love and why that was necessary. And I'd like you to ask this light, this presence now, if there's anything that you can take back now when you awaken, take back with you that you can then use moving forward, whether it's an increased awareness of your abilities or a new way of seeing life. Is there some tools that you can access now that will help you on your path moving forward? And what's the easiest way to access these tools, this help, once you return to your normal life?
Encouragement, for what's to come, reminders to just stay present in the moment and listen to that inner knowing. Maintain personal responsibility and make my choices from that place of integrity. And that it's all perfect. There's nothing to fear because it's all perfect.
I want you to have this deep sense of perfection felt in the moment, all around you. I want it to surround you. And I want you to be able to take this feeling with you moving forward so that you can easily return to it whenever you want. You can access it more easily, even more than before. Just this overwhelming feeling that everything is perfect, that everything is happening exactly on time, and that you have no reason not to trust what's happening in any moment. So that when you awaken, you'll feel this love, this great love, everywhere you look, inside and out. And you'll carry that around you where you go, wherever you go from now on, just like a fragrance. It'll surround you, and you'll always be able to access it, regardless of whatever life situation presents itself. You'll be able to return to it easily from now on. Bring more attention now to just being back. 4, more alert, more awake, and 5. You can open your eyes.
Well, that was powerful.
Yeah, it seems like you went on a bit of a journey there.
Just a bit. And I don't think I'm easy to hypnotize, by the way, based on past experiences. And I definitely felt as if I had gone very, very deep and felt very safe. So thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing your story and taking me on the trip with you. Do you feel anything else moving
Well,
forward?
it makes sense that I would not have remembered the conversations, I guess, uh, during that 30 to 45-minute period. Um, the numerous physical, emotional, and mental traumas that occurred for the next 15 years helped
Too much. Yeah.
me be who I am today. And I like me.
Yeah, I like you too.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, but it's more important that I like me
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because
Amen to that. Yeah.
yeah, because the reality is, and this is for everyone else as well, if we don't like ourselves, we're not going to hear it from other people.
Right, right, right.
That filter is in the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the information is still processing. Um, it
Mhm.
feels like a weaving is occurring energetically inside.
Yeah,
Um,
don't mind my pressing you for details.
it's okay if you do, because the answer might come up or information might come up. But I tend to experience things energetically, and that's what it feels like, is that it's all integrating and processing. And it's very much like uh, I guess we could say the weave was already there in terms of the experiences, but now the intellectual piece is being woven in, and the comprehension, and presumably, time will tell, but presumably the ability to utilize that information and those experiences to turn around and help others. Which is, as far as I'm concerned, why I'm still on the planet.
Yeah.
It's to make a
Yeah.
positive difference.
That
So
makes sense. Yeah.
anyway,
Very
I don't
cool.
know if I feel very radiant. I don't know if it comes across, but
Yeah, you look very radiant. Yeah, it does come
I feel
across.
that. So yeah, this is a gift. Thank you. Still
Thank
just
you.
everything's processing. I don't
Yeah,
think any of it really has any pertinence to anyone else other than
your own understanding.
the process within me in terms of expanding and understanding. Um, it was like a classroom where I was in a sense, but not like a classroom that we have here per se, but that was the energetic feel of the place. Is the focus was on learning. So apparently they have those in other realms too.
Amen. Yeah, I would say so. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, thank you. Like I said, I'll keep you
Greatly
posted.
appreciate you and thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's
It's a
fun for
gift.
me too. So yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Thank
cool
you.
bananas. Take care.
Okay. Yeah, I'll talk to you later.
Okay, doke. Bye bye.